Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
You're watching Disruptive Investing. I'm calling this episode Future Shock. All right, so this first part is another story about an analyst showing a lack of understanding of Tesla. I'm talking about John Murphy of Bank of America. He just increased his price target on Tesla, get this, from $350 to $400 last week, and he said it was all because of his visit to Giga Texas. Murphy said in a note to investors, "The trip gave us increased confidence that Tesla is well positioned to grow in 2025 plus with its core EV business and launch of its robotaxi offering and longer term from its investments in Optimus. The Cybertruck and the Model Y we rode in drove seamlessly to a charging station several miles away despite abnormal road conditions, traveling on roads under construction and taking a tough left turn against traffic."
So let me get this straight. You're paid a handsome salary by Bank of America to analyze companies, and you can advise your clients on which ones to invest in, and you just now got in a Cybertruck and a Model Y? Did he say that he was using like version 14 of the Tesla software? Was this some kind of abnormally good version of Tesla's software, or is this just your bog standard Model Y that you can go out and buy for under 50 grand?
Right.
Seriously, he has all the resources of a fucking bank, and he didn't go out and either purchase or just rent a Cybertruck and a Model Y. And so, John Murphy, you just increased your price target by only $22 from where the price is today?
Here's the thing. John Murphy is actually a pretty highly rated analyst if you look at tip ranks. He ranks 897 out of 9,226 Wall Street analysts. His average return is about what you'd get if you invested in the S&P 500 yourself, and his success rate is 57%, so about a coin flip. And that's what I'm trying to stress to everybody here, okay? Even some of the best ranked analysts are not much better than a coin flip. And this to me shows why. He's going to advise people that pay him on whether or not Tesla's a good investment. But up until now, he doesn't actually really even understand what FSD is, or a Gigafactory is, or a Cybertruck is. And that's why so many of you have done so well listening to our advice, because you're getting advice directly from people who test out all this stuff. And honestly, even though we love Tesla, we're not biased.
I know that it seems like a crazy thing for us to say because almost every word out of our mouth is pro-Tesla, but that's only because we've learned through experience that Tesla makes the best products. We've driven many of the other products. We interview dozens of founders and CEOs, and we're always on the lookout for disruption and innovation, but sadly, it's very rare.
Now, if I was John Murphy and I could get the access that he and these other analysts have, you would hardly ever find me in the office, okay? I'd be out there learning which companies are doing what, meeting with the C-suites in person, asking the questions. But sadly, my guess is that analysts like John Murphy aren't that inquisitive or open to future shock. And that's the part we want to leave you with. In 1970, the book Future Shock, written by Alvin Toffler, was published. So the premise of the book is that the rapid pace of technological and social change can overwhelm individuals, right? Leads to psychological state, he called it future shock, where people struggle to adapt to the accelerated rate of change. Now, Toffler explores how this rapid change affects personal, social, and economic life, discussing concepts like information overload, the acceleration of change, and the adaptability of cultures and individuals to these changes. So if you look back through human history and you compare technological change to what we have all experienced for the past, say, 20 years, most innovation in the past happened much slower. So even if you take giant technological advancements like the printing press or the trebuchet, the effects of these technologies took years, decades, generations, often centuries to really play out.
If you or I were alive in, say, the 5th century AD when the trebuchet was invented, we may have never even encountered its effects during our lifetime.
Jump ahead to the invention of the World Wide Web in 1991, and sure, for some people, they may not have directly used it for a few more years, but I was actually using it in 1992. I was sending emails, getting weather forecasts, and reading movie reviews. Kind of tame by today's standards, but I was already affecting my life just a year or two after its invention.
Fast forward, say, 10 years to 2001, and whether you knew it or not, your life was very much affected by the internet. The internet then allowed for these following technologies, which affected all of us.
World Wide Web, personal computers, mobile phones, email, search engines, digital camera, social media, broadband internet, smartphones.
And all of these technologies have branches, like the way we find and listen to music or watch movies today versus just a couple decades ago.
Or how many of us buy cars today like this? And let's be honest, it's almost impossible to keep up. I mean, just when you figured out one new technology, like say email, then along comes texting or WhatsApp or DMs. And, it's hard to know which new technology branches are going to become dominant and which are going to wither. I mean, should I have bought hundreds of vinyl records back in the 80s and then bought hundreds of music CDs again in the 90s? That seems dumb now that I have access to almost all of recorded music on, say, Spotify for a fraction of the cost.
But what were you supposed to do? Not listen to your favorite music for a few decades?
And that's kind of my point. As disruptive as compact discs were to vinyl LP records, I had years to transition my music collection over to the latest digital technology. Today, these kinds of changes are happening even faster. And if you've kind of grown comfortable with, say, putting a needle on a record or pushing the play button on your CD player, then maybe you don't use Spotify. It's technology overload.
It's future shock. We are just animals with brains that may not have evolved to adapt this quickly. As an investor, you may have gotten comfortable with the companies you know, the industries you know. I know airlines and trucking.
But what about when SpaceX intercontinental flights disrupt traditional jet airplanes? What about when autonomous electric semi-trucks disrupt traditional trucks driven by human drivers?
As investors, we are generally blind to the topics or industries that we don't know much about.
Like, for instance, I'm really fascinated by the bio industry, right? DNA, anti-aging, health, food. I learn about it on the edges, but I know that I don't spend enough time and focus on really getting to know that industry like I do with, say, sustainable energy and transportation. And therefore, I don't generally invest in it. Because even if out of pure luck, I did find a company that is doing amazing things in this field, how would I know if I had heard about it along with a million other investors when the price was super high? How would I know when to sell? And am I only looking at this particular company because I think I understand what they're doing and believe it's the winning technology? What I mean is, I barely understand DNA sequencing and technologies like CRISPR. Right? My horizon for where biotechnology is going and when it's going to get there is probably very inaccurate. So I might say to myself, well, I should follow some analysts in this field, like John Murphy, someone whose job it is to study this stuff. And that sounds logical, but as we just showed you, even a top-ranked analyst like John Murphy, who works for a big bank, Bank of America, is just dipping his toes into this technology. He doesn't get where this is headed or when it will get there.
And that's the rub. Very few people actually have any idea about what is about to unfold over the next 5, 10, 15 years. They can act like they do, but they don't know. Because never before in human history have we had this many innovative and disruptive technologies all in play and all coming to fruition simultaneously.
Artificial intelligence, robots, cryptocurrencies, electric vehicles, autonomous driving, reusable rockets, human brain implants, genetic engineering. Each one of these technologies is spurring multi-trillion-dollar markets. Combine them?
So we focus on arguably the most amazing innovator of our time, Elon Musk. We study him and his products and his companies every week, as we have for the past 9 years. And we try really hard not to let the future shock that honestly hits me all the time keep us from seeing past the shock and allow our imaginations to begin to make out what life in the near future could be like.
And this is why you might want to join our Patreon Investor Club. This is a group of people that kind of does well with future shock, is really thinking about the future. And it's really good to be a group of those people because then where you've got weaknesses or blind spots, they can help you kind of through that. So join us over on patreon.com/nowyouknow. It helps support the work we do. And the Investor Club to me is really valuable. It can really help you to see what's coming well before other people. That's kind of the key here. We're all going to get there eventually, right? But if you get there first, you get the better deals.
And this is where listening to analysts is a dumb idea because all of the major things where it's like, if you had invested in this early, you would have made all this money. Well, why didn't everybody invest in that early? Well, it's because the analysts didn't know anything about search engines. They didn't know anything about smartphones. These are people who, they have to be so slow and conservative. And for some reason, they also don't just try the damn thing, especially when it's a consumer product. I understand when it's like, oh, well, this is a giant mining machine. You're not going to like get behind the driver's seat and be like, this is a great mining machine. But when it's a car, on a road,
we had our own Cybertruck back in May. And we've been showing you and experiencing it ever since then. This analyst who could have been in one of the first Cybertrucks didn't do it till now.
And they work for a bank. They have all the money in the world. $8,000 for full self-driving, that's pocket change. That's nothing. And they would write that straight off. This is the insane part to me and why I'm flabbergasted when I hear about stuff like this because I go like, that can't be true. Well, that can't be true. He must have people on his team telling him this. No, he has to go to the factory and then he's amazed? Where have you been, my guy? What are you doing? Why haven't you experienced this yet? How can you be this dumb? And he's an analyst. He's telling people like, I'm impressed. I moved my target up.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're going to talk about on this week's Investor Club bonus stories, something we do every week for our Investor Club, is talk about how much more money you would have had if you had invested in Tesla earlier. And it really does make a difference. It's great if you're invested in it, but when you get invested in it, it has a big role to play in how much money you make in the future. So thanks so much for watching us, everybody. We'll see you guys next week here on Disruptive Investing.